Hello, friends, and welcome back to Vlogmas. This month I'm doing some unscripted videos that are just my thoughts on various topics. The topic today is Billie Eilish on Howard Stern talking about pornography and talking about her personal experience with pornography. I think we should start out the video by listening to a few clips.
As a woman, I think porn is a disgrace. I think it really destroyed my brain. I think that I had like sleep paralysis and these like almost like night terror / just nightmares because of it. The first few times I, had sex, I was not saying no to things that were not good. And it's because I thought that that's what I was supposed to be attracted to. And I'm so angry that porn is so loved, and I'm so angry at myself for thinking that it was okay. Women's bodies don't look like that.
This interview was immediately of interest to me because back in May, I did a video about Billie Eilish posing in Vogue magazine, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. And if you haven't seen that video, you should go watch it because it's actually really good. That's just me having some self-confidence. I like the things that she had to say. I think that everything she said was super apt, very intelligent, honest, kind of vulnerable. And she's also acting as the canary in the coal mine, right? Trying to raise awareness about this impending epidemic of kids who are growing up on pornography, who are growing up on the internet, where they are just 3 letters away from really vile content that is going to change their brains forever. We know that research says that pornography changes brains. So she's bringing awareness to that, which I respect a lot, and I do give her credit for that. But I want to talk about my knee-jerk reaction to her comments because, as I said, I've analyzed her before, and the conversation she had with Howard Stern did not take place in a vacuum. Very few things do. I felt a little bit like she was being somewhat hypocritical, having contributed to porn culture herself. As I mentioned, I did a video essay in May about this photo shoot that she did for British Vogue magazine. She was posed in very sexy but also kind of very bondagey lingerie, corsets, stuff with like buckles and garters and latex, and just looking very restricted, uncomfortable and stuff like that. And that photo shoot was accompanied by a very lib-femi interview where she talked about how empowering it was to take her clothes off. And as we know, taking her clothes off is not an empowering action, just like Percy, not empowering. Also, side note about that photo shoot, there was this idea that she was trying to reference this 1950s pinup culture. Very often, 1950s pinup culture is presented as this sort of vintage, like almost wholesome thing just because it's so old and it's like classic and stuff. Especially Billie's photo shoot and the outfits that she wore were very reminiscent of or referencing someone like Betty Page. And Betty Page is in no way wholesome. She's really one of the first to pose in really dehumanizing, objectifying, like awful kinds of pornographies. Not that Billie was just wearing like a feminine dress or something. She is really dressed in this very BDSM type of get-ups. Also, in most of the photos, she has a very dead-eye expression, and I hope that you guys are unaware of this, but dead eyes is actually a porn category, and it's such a violent and disturbing porn category that that type of pornography was banned from Reddit. That's how bad it is. Her expression overlaps with that category of violent porn. In the Howard Stern interview, we heard Billie say, "Women don't look like that," right? Of course, my thought was, well, you appeared in Vogue, photoshopped in your underwear. Women don't look like that. So the thing that you're criticizing, you're also doing the exact same thing. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm getting at? That she's criticizing this thing, rightly so, is worthy of criticism, but she has also contributed to it. And it's not just the photo shoot. She also this year did a very cringy, weird, male gazy music video called Lost Cause, where she's sort of writhing around on a bed with other women and her cleavage is out, or she's not wearing pants and things like that. It's really creepy, but it's sort of being sold as this like very empowering, fun, youthful, free, liberating kind of thing, but it's really just the same thing we see everywhere else, completely lacking creativity. I mean, think about, you can make a music video about anything, right? You can make a music video with any kind of visuals, and that's what they chose, this very trite view of young womanhood, writhing around like kind of half naked. Not only very unoriginal, but again, it's pushing that pornified view of women. Porn is on the continuum of the objectification of women. And Billie has also done things that exist on that same continuum of the objectification of women. And she's a hugely influential person. She has tons of fans, many of whom are young girls who are going to grow up thinking that this is what it is to be an empowered young woman, and that's how they need to express themselves to prove that they're empowered or whatever. So I do think that her comments need to be looked at in that context. This is not about imposing a purity test at all. It's just looking at how these comments fit into the bigger picture. And like I said, I agree with everything she said. I think she's very brave to say this stuff is very counter to the stereotypical liberal feminist message that porn is empowering, but it's also either hypocritical or contradictory, I guess, to her actions in the past. That's what I'm saying. And I want to make something clear. I am also not saying that someone who participated in things in the past can't then go and turn around and criticize them. Of course they can. Of course they can have an awakening. But as far as I know, she hasn't really done any self-reflection yet. She hasn't said, oh, gosh, I really wish I hadn't done that photo shoot, or I really wish I hadn't done that video. She hasn't come to that point of enlightenment yet, as far as I'm aware. Another point that I wanted to make is that porn culture really goes both ways. Like, we think of pornography feeding into the mainstream and showing up in music videos and things like that, and it going in that direction. But really, porn culture in mainstream portrayals goes the other direction too, because it really normalizes pornography. So they really feed off each other. I think that's an important point to acknowledge as well. My other knee-jerk reaction was that she's on Howard Stern, and she's this beautiful, sort of sensual 19-year-old girl talking about her sexual experiences to this notoriously disgusting, pervy old man, right? She's talking about ideas that do deserve a public platform, but the forum that she chose, I think she could have chosen a better forum. I think Howard Stern is just disgusting, misogynistic creep, right? That made me somewhat uncomfortable as well. So those were my initial thoughts, and then I kind of sat on this for like a day, and I realized that actually I think what this all represents is a very classic victim becoming part of the system, because Billie clearly, as she has described it, has experienced childhood sexual trauma, repeatedly viewing violent pornography as young as 11 years old, and then having nightmares and night terrors as a result of that, would absolutely classify as childhood sexual trauma. So many women in pornography, prostitution, or other forms of exploitation are victims of childhood sexual trauma. So that may be really what we're seeing here, is that her participation in this stuff is a result of her having had this trauma. And it's also kind of unclear whether these career moves that she's made were actually her own pure decisions, or whether she was really coerced into this stuff. And I think you get a clue to that, or see that mirrored a little bit when she talks about her sexual experiences and doing things that ultimately now she realizes were bad because that's what was expected of her. So it may be the same thing, she feels these things are expected of her. She's still very young, doesn't have a developed prefrontal cortex yet, and so her decision-making abilities are not really truly at an adult level. And she may have been coerced into making these career moves. So maybe she is not fully to blame for feeding into this system that pornifies women. Just because she's been quoted that being sexy is empowering doesn't mean that those are really her own original thoughts, or she's just saying those things because that's what she believes will get her adoration and love and respect and all the things that we're all ultimately looking for. So yeah, in conclusion, I think it's good that she's now advocating for this realistic view of pornography, but she hasn't come to self-reflect yet on her own contributions to porn culture. And I hope that's coming for her because I feel like that would be a good step for her. She's only done this stuff this year. It may take her some time to reflect and readjust. Again, someone like her who is a celebrity who has a lot of influence over how young girls feel about themselves could make a huge impact. Those are my thoughts. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this topic. I really feel like the objectification of women is the heart of all feminism. The big question is, are women human? And feminism is seeking to answer that question in the affirmative. Yes, we are human just in the same way that men are human. And we're never going to get there. We're never going to get there if we allow these visions of women as objects to go uncriticized in our world. Yeah, so anyways, I would love to hear what you guys have to say on this topic. And yeah, take it easy, and I will see you super soon. Bye.